Wagwan everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at this weird She-Hulk show. We're going to be looking at the first two episodes because that's what's been released so far. Depending on how much there is to this show, I'll probably start working on a proper video essay like I usually do when it's over. So you can look forward to that because I feel like, just based on the premise alone, there'll be a lot to talk about. For one, I don't think Marvel has the best track record when it comes to writing female characters, which is actually a topic that I've devoted an entire video to a couple months back. And I feel like this flaw is even more evident when the women are front and center of the film. Like Black Widow, for example, a character who is fine within the realms of her usual role as a side character, but when given an entire movie sort of becomes a bit dull, boring, and unimpressive, and thus made for a bit of a lackluster experience. There's also the notorious Captain Marvel, which I don't think anyone even bothers defending, as well as Scarlet Witch, who was okay as a side character again, but they sort of ruined her in the last Doctor Strange movie. Marvel's strongest women are once again all side characters like Gamora, and also, even then, not even that strong. Like, no one really loves Gamora. No one's favourite character is Gamora, I'll put it that way. They just sort of exist to fulfill their role and nothing more. Off the top of my head, I genuinely can't think of one well-written female character that Marvel has produced. But to be fair, Marvel have never been the greatest screenwriters when it comes to any character in general. I don't think they're particularly impressive. So partially as a result of this, my hopes for this show they're not very high at all. However, the advantage of this means that it will be a lot easier to impress me if something does work. Bear in mind that I've not seen any trailers, I've not seen any clips, though I am aware that the CGI has been criticised. Without further ado, let's just get into episode 1.
It's true. I am a Hulk. And I'm guessing you're not going to be able to focus on this fun lawyer show until you know all about that, so let me get you up to speed.
Okay, so she's a bit of a fourth wall breaking meta type of character, which is fine, I'm open for that. There's an art to breaking the fourth wall though. When it comes to fourth wall breaks, the trick is to not get caught up in being too clever. Because a lot of the time, in Deadpool for example, they think they're a lot more clever than they actually are. Just don't be too pretentious about it and you'll be good. And of course, the character needs to be likable enough for them to work as well.
I told you about my friend and colleague.
Obviously, Captain America was a virgin.
Oh. Okay, so straight away I'm not impressed with the writing. Obviously, Captain America was a virgin. I feel like for a character such as She-Hulk, who has already been presented as having sort of feministic qualities, which again is fine, you can write a feminist as a character, that's completely fine, I'm not like fucking anti-feminist or anything. But when you write a character like that to criticize a man for not having lost their virginity is very much contradictory to what you should be standing up for. It just doesn't make sense for this character to make that joke. And on top of that, and possibly most importantly, the joke just wasn't that funny to begin with. I know it might seem like a bit of a small detail that I'm nitpicking here, but it really does matter. It really shows how much effort the writers put into the show, I feel. I actually quite like the idea of issues being more specific to women being the sort of trigger for the She-Hulk's transformation. You know, I want to give the show props where it's due. It's not all going to be negative, I'm sure.
System, and after the wreck, and you got a lethal dose of gamma radiation.
Lethal? As in I'm gonna die?
No, there was more to it that I'm going to explain.
That is not the sentence to take a pause on, bro!
This interaction would be a lot funnier if these actors were more charismatic. I've never been the biggest fan of Mark Ruffalo. The CGI isn't too bad, but it is noticeably weaker than the actual films, which is to be expected, but it is affecting the facial expressions of Hulk a little bit. The presentation is horrifically boring. It's so dull. Shot, reverse shot, shot, reverse shot, shot, reverse shot. I've yet to see anything that piques my interest a little bit. It's disappointing, but it was completely to be expected because Marvel never does anything ambitious with their presentation. And when the writing isn't great either, it just makes for an experience that's a little bit boring.
Yeah?
Wait, you're still Jen? Right now?
Yeah, the CGI is not too bad. She looks fine.
Bruh!
Did the Hulk just say bruh?
You really don't feel
Fucking hell. Thing is, I know, but it's weird. Jen is actually... she looks a lot better than the Hulk does. Like, her animation in her face specifically is actually a lot more entertaining than the Hulk's.
First, we're gonna practice some mindfulness with a few yoga techniques.
Wow, I never thought you'd be into all this.
Do you guys remember when the Hulk was actually, like, cool? Do you remember the first Avengers movie when the Hulk was actually scary? Like, he'd come on screen and you'd think, fuck, the Hulk. Now he's just goofy Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo, but green and bigger. In my opinion, it's a lot less entertaining. The banter and chemistry between these two characters is pretty okay, all things considered. Like, I can watch it without getting angry. So is this the theme? Is that she's just immediately better than regular Hulk at everything? That's a bit of a strange decision, that, because usually the training arc where you sort of get stronger is the most entertaining part of a lot of these films. Like, for a 9-episode show, it would make a lot of sense for 1 or 2 episodes to be a little more dedicated to her improving and getting stronger. To have her immediately be able to handle and control everything about her Hulk self is a little bit... I don't know, we'll see where it goes, because it might be the right decision to make. But it's a dodgy one. I mean, come on, like, who is the audience for that joke? The whole lawyer thing is an interesting shtick. I feel like it's Marvel's way of trying to replicate the thing that they did with Spider-Man, for example, where he lives 2 lives, one as a superhero and one as a sort of normal person. It's something that works really well for a lot of these superhero movies when done right, so we just need to hope Marvel don't try to get a little bit too desperate with trying to replicate that storyline.
Here's the thing, Bruce. I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time. When I'm catcalled in the street, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me, I do it pretty much every day, because if I don't, I will get called emotional or difficult or might just literally get murdered. So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you. So all of this just feels like projecting a lot of shit onto me. No, I'm doing this.
Okay, this is completely new territory.
That was just such a boring and uninteresting speech he gave there. They're putting far too much emphasis on the fact that she's a woman, a strong woman character, when in reality she should be a strong character who happens to be a woman. The whole thing of, oh, I'm good at controlling my anger because men have catcalled me in the past. Didn't the Hulk have to watch his dad kill his mum, or something like that? I don't know the entire backstory, but I remember it's something like that. So to have this new She-Hulk just be better at everything and be better at controlling everything about this new form is such a lazy sort of way of thinking about it. I don't want to say that it's pandering to a female audience here, but it certainly feels like it slightly. This is a somewhat interesting conflict, and I'm glad that they're showing that the two characters still care for each other despite the argument that they're having. This is definitely the strongest scene in the show so far. They're actually giving her a little bit of character, even if it is an aspect of character that we've seen so many times before. The fact that this new Hulk is already so much better than the original one also sort of damages the original Hulk's reputation a little bit. Like, it makes it a lot more difficult to take him seriously, which was already a problem when the new Mark Ruffalo thing fucking came in. So now I just feel like no one's gonna respect Hulk.
See you at the next family dinner.
See ya, fuzzball.
Yeah, that was fairly sweet. That's drawn me a little bit more towards the show. They're giving the characters a chance to express themselves a little bit, which is always good.
Definition of knowing.
Don't screw this up, Walters.
What a dick! Why'd they write him to be such a fucking dick? Oh, come on. What the fuck is going on?
Attorney at law.
What, oh my god, this editing. Jesus Christ, this is such a mess. What the fuck is happening? Oh my god, what a horrible... That was awful. I'm sorry, that was awful. That was so bad. That was some of the worst editing I've seen in a show in a while. Fucking hell, I can't believe that's actually a part of this show that Marvel produced. Jesus Christ, what a load of shit.
I'm ready to give my closing argument now.
Alright. It wasn't the worst first episode, I suppose, but there's a lot of... it's not looking promising, I'll put it that way. I think the biggest issue so far is that the characters have no character. I don't really care for anyone in this show, and I couldn't give less of a shit about whether or not Jen's lawyering career goes as she wants it to go. The Hulk has sort of been reduced to a joke, and we can't really take him as seriously anymore. And Jen just seems to have no fucking weaknesses so far, so it's very hard to invest yourselves in her. What I'm looking for in the next episode is maybe a bit of vulnerability from the character, maybe a bit of weakness to make her a bit more relatable for the audience. I don't want to use the term Mary Sue because she's not quite that perfect, but she's bordering it. I hope there aren't as many men written into the show to be just rude and terrible for the sake of being a rude and fucking horrible man. Like that weird lawyer guy who she was having that mini conflict with. A bit of depth to these characters would actually go quite a long way. Oh, the comedy wasn't that great either, which is surprising because it's written by the same woman who wrote Pickle Rick, so I was expecting a bit of a comedic masterclass, to be totally honest with you. Anyway, episode 2, baby!
Turn into a Hulk, like a chick Hulk.
What is that acting? What is this guy? Oh god, is this fucking guy again? No one is this shallow in real life. It just completely ruins any potential immersion you can have. That was actually quite a good gag, and I appreciate the consistency there.
Today, GLK and H argued that the jury was then biased in your favor.
Well, what was I supposed to do? Like, let them get...
That's fair enough as well. I quite like that, because that does make sense, that the jury would be biased. So now the conflict between the She-Hulk part of her and the lawyer part of her are coming into play, and this could potentially be a great part of her character, if they continue to do it as well as they did in that scene. This has been a strong opening to the episode so far. Apart from that one dick, it's already a bit better than the last one.
Please, 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 please come with me. Can't I have a date? I'll never forgive you for this.
I would appreciate a bit more of an emotional performance from a woman who has supposedly lost everything they've worked for about 6 years plus. The whole thing about the Hulk is that they're meant to be, like, emotional. There's meant to be an emotional side to them. Jen hasn't really shown much emotion thus far. Even in that fucking high-pressure, near-death situation, she didn't do much. She just seemed mildly annoyed, if anything. The presentation's a little more interesting in this scene as well. They're actually using a handheld, bit of a shaky camera. It's not as stiff and artificial as a regular scene would be. It's a small detail, but you gotta take what you can get with these boring Marvel film presentations.
Those years of law school even for?
Well,
Maybe I should have just let those people get smushed by that desk.
Sweetheart, it's gonna be okay.
This is a genuinely well-written dilemma here, and I think it's the strongest part of the show, thus far at least.
Mr. Blonsky is well aware of your familial connection and has signed a conflict waiver. He would like to retain you specifically as his attorney.
This shit's getting interesting, you know. It actually is getting I'm a little invested, I can't lie.
Whoa. You can't come in like that. No superpowers inside.
No superpowers inside, but that sort of doesn't matter if you can just change at whim.
First off, namaste.
Mr. Blonsky, I was expecting...
Combination, right?
Oh, finally, we're getting a little bit of character in this show. A little bit of spice. Something to be fucking invested in. Like, this character, immediately, the acting is screaming something interesting. Something that's genuinely a little bit quirky. And I so appreciate that after the bore fest that we've just been through.
I understand your point, but the parole board's gonna need to know that you feel remorse for your actions.
I am so much more interested in this show now.
I have here various haikus that I've written.
Oh boy.
To
The introduction of this character has genuinely immediately made me so much more invested in this show. It's also bringing out a more comedic and interesting side of Jen herself. Like, there's actually conflict here. There's two characters who want something different. There's a history there. It's a lot more entertaining to watch, this dynamic between them.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
So I'm actually quite excited to see what's to come, considering I feel like a lot of the show is going to be dedicated to those two characters.
You know, isn't rehabilitation something that we should strive for as a society?
That's what you
But none of that matters if you
This is great. This is actually well written.
Completely different person now, literally.
So you're sure you're okay with it?
This is quite decent, this. Genuinely, the show is not bad as I thought it was going to be. Maybe it's because my expectations were so low that this is actually impressing me a little bit. I still wouldn't say that it's a good show, so far at least, but it definitely has the potential to become one. There's only the first 2 episodes that are out so far, so but I'll definitely be watching the rest. To be fair, it's not so much that I'm enjoying the show or I think it's particularly impressive right now. It's just that I can definitely see a direction that it takes that will be a lot more entertaining than everything we've seen so far. So they can still absolutely fuck it up.
In what appears to be an underground fight club after having somehow escaped from prison.
Oh, that sucks.
Well, you know, if I hadn't seen Shang-Chi, I would absolutely have no fucking idea what that linked to. Luckily, well, unfortunately I have seen Shang-Chi, so I get it. I guess we'll have to see where it goes from here. Okay, so that's the end of the first 2 episodes, which is all we have so far, and I would say I'm a little bit impressed, considering how low my expectations were. The first episode was, I would say, bad. I would say pretty bad. Especially that fight scene at the end, which was just edited so horribly. I guess it was to save budget, but it was just so unprofessional that I couldn't take it seriously. Like I said before, even though I thought the second episode was significantly stronger than the first, I still don't think that it's anything particularly good. It's just that I saw some seeds being sown of a plant that can sprout into something that's a lot more entertaining and dynamic as a show. I'm more interested to see what's going to come over excited. I think the third episode will really solidify whether or not this show is anything worth watching. But like I said at the start of this video, it doesn't really matter too much because I will probably be making a fully in-depth video essay or review like I usually do with films and movies and such when these 9 episodes come to a close. I'm doing this for the moment because I'm moving to university soon, there's a whole bunch of complications going on, but rest assured this is not a reaction channel and I will be making a proper high effort video later on. But for now that's about it, a subscription would be very much appreciated and I'll catch you later.